Start? Okay. All right. Can I have your attention, please? First of all, apologies for all the shifting schedule. I think, as you know, we're getting updates on the arrival of the FDA commissioner, and we're trying to make things work as well as possible. And I very much appreciate your patience during this. We now have, I think, the good fortune of having a conversation, a fireside chat. And what we like to do in this session is to get to know a leader in the biopharma industry, get to know that person a little bit personally, and also learn their perspectives on the industry, some of the challenges now, and where we're going. Now, originally, we were going to have Albert Bourla here. This is not Albert Bourla.
Sorry.
But it's a really special person, I have to tell you. Chris Boshoff, who I have had a chance, I didn't know him before. We've been chatting delightfully for a half an hour outside the room here, and I really feel like I know him now, which means that we can kind of relax, Chris, and we can have a private conversation and ignore the 300 people who are eavesdropping on us as we chat.
I like that.
Okay. So it's going to be very informal. And obviously, I'm very grateful to Chris for stepping in at the last minute. But I think you'll find the questions and the answers especially very interesting. So I said I wanted to know something about you personally. And I thought, you've started your career in South Africa. And then you became the head of the University College London Cancer Institute, and then you moved over to Pfizer. And there's a lot of texture and a lot of things in between, a lot of learnings. And I just want to give you a chance to maybe tell a little bit about your personal story and how it maybe impacts what you're doing now.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael. And thanks, everyone. It's an honor to be here. I'm representing Albert, so it's an additional responsibility. I'm Chris Boshoff. I'm the head of R&D, president of R&D at Pfizer. So my whole life has actually been in medicine. Even when I remember when I was in high school, I used to go and work in the hospital because I enjoyed it, do some work in the A&E departments over weekends and holidays. It was kind of just in my DNA to do medicine. Then went to medical school, and very early in medical school, actually probably in my second year in medical school, got a very specific interest in oncology and cancer research, and in cancer medicine. Completed my training in medicine, then went on to do what we do, fellowships, and started training as a medical oncologist in London at the Royal Marsden Hospital and Royal London Hospital in London. And I was told then, well, if you want to be an academic oncologist in London, you have to do a PhD. So innocent, I walked into the Institute of Cancer Research. The director at that point, who was Robin Weiss, who I didn't realize was one of the great scientists in cancer research, because he was involved in oncogenic viruses, and his laboratory discovered CD4 is the receptor of HIV. So Robin Weiss said to me, well, we do virology. You can't do cancer here, but you can work on something called Kaposi sarcoma, because it's probably caused by a virus, but it's a cancer. Maybe it's not a complete cancer. It's a benign cancer, benign malignancy. So I was very fortunate during my PhD, which was in a very scientific molecular virology, oncogenic virus, 5 years in the lab, developing many of the fundamental, original foundational discoveries on KSHV, sequencing with a group in New York, the virus KSHV, discovered many of the oncogenes, or the herpes virus. It's not really oncogenes, but they were mimicry, some of the genes of the virus that can cause malignancy. So a true scientific PhD. Then went on in academic medicine at UCL, University College London, where I became the head of the Cancer Center and recruited many, and some of you in cancer research will know people like Charlie Swanton and others who I recruited to UCL. And then after 6 years running the Cancer Center, what do I do next? And then Pfizer reached out through a very complex connection between London and Pfizer San Diego, which was the hub for R&D for oncology, and recruited me 14 years ago to move from London to San Diego. And that was extremely traumatic. It was traumatic on terrible levels. And I remember driving you all, for those of you who've been to San Diego and La Jolla, there's that beautiful road, Torrey Pines, Del Mar going into Torrey Pines. I was driving 6 months into the job, and I was driving crying, and I was thinking, why the hell am I crying in paradise? That was what it was. It was such a shock to go from academia where you're free and it's hypothesis driven, you can kind of do what you want, and in this extremely structured matrix, bureaucratic organization into big industry. But I did it, and then worked up in the different functions from clinical development, translational oncology, cancer research, involved in many of our business development opportunities in oncology, led oncology until we became an end-to-end oncology organization, where I led from discovery all the way through to commercial, the oncology commercial organization, and then was asked to be the new head of R&D overall for Pfizer. So my whole life has been medicine, and my whole life has been learning, because each day is, wow, we can learn a lot each day in this profession, in this industry.
Well, that's a great story, and of course, now you have, one of the few perches in biomedical research where you've got a huge global view of science and medicine and the intersection with commercial. And now I want to open the aperture from the personal story to kind of your view, way open, your view of the world now in the following ways. Science is exploding, we know this. We have, in the last few years, therapeutic modalities that were never on the planet before. Right. Cell therapy, gene therapy, mRNA, microbiome, on and on. The world of small drugs and biologicals has just been superseded by so much activity, yet we have probably increased complexity in drug development and clinical trials and regulation, health economic forces. And I want to give you free rein to just tell us where you think we are now as you look at things, and where do you think we're going? What are some of the challenges? What are some of the things that you would predict are going to work out? Anything you want to tell us about now and a peek into the future?
It's a very big question. I'll try and crystallize to a few points. So I always look at drug discovery and development as two pieces. The one is the biology, and we can argue we obviously right now at an incredible time of understanding the molecular basis and the genetic basis of disease. So understanding that piece is accelerated and advanced tremendously from where we were 10 years ago. So that's the biological basis of disease. And then on the other side is technology. And by technology, things, if you think of targets, the undruggable, we used to say, very few targets or proteins, transcription factors that we need to affect to impact disease cannot be targeted any longer. So that's the very, very exciting piece where we are in terms of the discovery and development, understanding the molecular base of disease and applying the most incredible technologies now, including most recent in vivo CRISPR therapies, in vivo CAR-T, in vivo CAR-NK. It's almost unlimited what can now be achieved. So those are the two pillars for me of discovery and development. The third that's now evolved much more so in the last couple of years is also AI. So now you have this interaction between biology, genetics, genomics, technology, and AI. So there's no doubt, and I'm saying things that you all know, that we're in a moment now in time that we will be able to achieve anything possible and can accelerate things and can be much more productive than ever before. If we truly implement AI, which I'm trying desperately to get into each functional line, from target discovery to medicinal chemistry, pharmaceutical sciences, ATME, preclinical toxicology, all the way through to medical affairs, each functional line, embed AI engineers into each function, we're truly going to transform this industry and becoming extremely productive. Some of the consultancy firms says up to 40 billion will be saved by the industry each year in productivity, by having less failures, and by being more efficient if we implement AI appropriately. So I'm extremely excited. I'm sure it's another piece we will discuss is China, because that's another piece now we're coming into the dimension. Yep. But just to start, is technology, biology, and AI. Between those three, I think we're now in a different trajectory.
Well, I know that Pfizer had sort of declared that they're going to increase their investment in R&D. They're making bigger and bigger bets, which is very heartening to see. Is this the way you were seeing AI and all these? Is that part of this decision to up the investment?
Yes, so we have already this year alone, and this is data we provide in publicly, saved up to $500 million in R&D by increasing productivity with digital implementation. Now we're reinvesting those $500 million into starting new phase 3 studies, new phase 1 studies in R&D. So we're not cutting the R&D budget. So just constantly, remember it's a big organization. My organization, global organization, is over 15,000 colleagues, actually over 16,000 colleagues globally. Big presence, not just in the US, but obviously also in China and India and in EU. So how can we constantly increase productivity? That's an executional effort that you have to keep up and then embed AI and other technologies into each function.
You know, scientifically, everybody comes from somewhere, from some field, and you come from oncology, and which, of course, has been an extremely exciting and productive field in terms of translational research in the last couple of decades. And now, you know, you've ascended to this position with your oncology background, and I imagine, and you'll know this much better than I do, that in many ways oncology is paradigmatic. There are models and ways of thinking and in science that you might take from oncology and apply them to other therapeutic areas. That's one of the things that would be in your wheelhouse. And could you say a little bit about how you can use your own foundation in oncology to look now, you're responsible for all the therapeutic areas that Pfizer is active in?
So that's a good question. So if we stand back and look at some of the fundamental discoveries in cancer research, from oncogenic viruses to oncogenes, the discovery of P53, the discovery of signal transduction pathways, growth pathways, some of the mitochondrial, understanding mitochondria, a lot of that function, metabolism, mitochondria, Warburg effect, a lot of it, the basis started in cancer. So cancer's been, and that's why, I mean, over 50% of all biotech currently globally is in oncology. A lot of the fundamental understandings of biology and genomics, genetics, came from oncology. If you look at clinical development, a lot of the accelerated pathways. Oncology was the first to stand back and say, we don't actually have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and I don't think of it as an oncology. It's phase 1 or early phase clinical trials, and then you make a decision whether you're going to accelerate into a registration strategy, supported by regulators. So again, oncology leading at the FDA, but also at EMA and Japan and China, the regulatory pathways to acceleration, to breakthrough therapy designation. Many of these things started in oncology. So oncology is a very good basis to apply to other therapeutic areas. Now working a lot more in I&I with the autoimmune diseases, the Th2 diseases. That, again, my understanding was kind of good because so much of immunology, some fundamental discoveries, again, PD-1 checkpoint inhibitors came from cancer, so it's helpful. In vaccines, again, understanding viruses helped me. So number one, absolutely true that you can apply learnings from oncology across the whole industry. For Pfizer specifically, we have, just to remind everyone, we've got 2 big hubs. One is for oncology, rest mainly East Coast, but oncology West Coast. So La Jolla, San Diego, one of the big research development hubs, end-to-end from discovery, target discovery, medicinal chemistry, protein engineering, all the way through preclinical tox, medical affairs, and Seattle, which we're building out Bothell after the acquisition of Seagen, which actually is now a very good site for us because Bothell, where our site is, and we're one of the largest biotech, biopharma in the Seattle area, we're the largest, just north of Bellevue. And for those of you who know the area, Bellevue is Microsoft and Amazon. So a lot of AI expertise, young colleagues coming in, want to join Pfizer. What was your background? I worked at Microsoft. I worked at Amazon. I'm an engineer. So that's very helpful for us, that side, but developing more of the tech side. La Jolla, just to point out, was actually, we're moving into a new site later this year, which if any of you have the opportunity to visit, is the most beautiful research site in the world. It overlooks the Pacific. It's, for those of you who know the area between Torrey Pines again and Del Mar, that is the Torrey Pine Beach. And you look back, there's a hill, and it's on this hill overlooking the Pacific, a property by Tishman and Breakwater, Ari Bildegren's company, and Dan Bildegren. So we're very proud moving in later this year.
Can you get any work done there, or you're looking out the window all the time?
Now what I've done, so just asking how to apply oncology to us. So what I've done, oncology was end-to-end. I had an end-to-end organization. So apart from commercial, now taking those lessons and what I've set up, so it's a new organization. We're setting up end-to-end internal medicine, and I recruited Jim List, who used to be a J&J head of internal medicine, who leads internal medicine end-to-end, so from discovery all the way through medical affairs. I&I, we've got a leader, Mike Vincent, all the way end-to-end. And then Pearl River is our large vaccine site. So it's a long legacy site. Pearl River, just 30 minutes north of Manhattan, is ours. So over 1,000 colleagues, which are vaccine-oriented. So we've got a vaccine end-to-end organization. So that's what I'm thinking now, to apply the oncology lessons for acceleration into the 3 other pillars of Pfizer's therapeutic area strategies.
Well, now I want you to fly over the Pacific to China. We've been holding you back on this, but I know your team has been there recently, and I know you've kind of got your finger on the pulse of what's happening there. It's changed so dramatically, so quickly. Give us a sense of China and how we should look at it, and maybe down the line, and if you don't remember this, I'll remind you, do we collaborate? Do we compete? Do we do both? But first, give us your view of what's going on in China.
I'll just start by saying this is not negative for Europe. I've spent many 25 years in London. But as you will all know, this industry really started in Europe with some of the biggest companies. I was told recently by someone just 15 years ago, there were over, I don't know if these numbers are correct, but I'm sure directionally they're correct. Just over 10 years ago, there were nearly 3 million colleagues in Germany in the biopharma biotech industry, and there's now 300,000. So Europe is in a very different place now, and the industry moved because of innovation, because of open market capitalism, VCs, investment. The industry moved to North America, to US. And what we're now seeing is this incredible emergence of China. Just this morning, we were looking at a molecule we're interested, a phase 1, an early phase molecule, that we're interested to potentially in-license. We asked, show us all the molecules being developed in this space. Preclinical, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And 6 of the 10 molecules were from China. And that is just a recurrent theme now, as you all know. So the industry is going to change completely in the next 10 years. I see it, it's 2 things. One, this is incredible for humanity. Because if there's another big force of innovation, of technology, that's going to drive cures for the diseases. Many of you know the legend BCMA, multiple myeloma bispecific. It's a fantastic thing that we have the legend BCMA now with J&J, because it's a transformative treatment. And many will argue is best-in-class BCMA CAR T therapy from Legend. It's from a China company. That's good for humanity. There's a treatment. There's potential for some patients, even a cure. So all we need to do now in the US is just lift our game. So there's an additional incredible competitor that's now in biotech, in discovery, but 10 years from now will be large biopharma that will be competing with names like us from China. So I think, that's a first. For humanity, it's incredible. For the second is then what do we do? So what do we do is increase, as I said, our game. Increase innovation, increase speed, get AI even quicker, where we have to increase just the technologies, the development from phase 1 to phase 2. We just have to be on our game even more and collaborate. Many of us in large pharma, as you all know, are also looking at smaller molecules, phase 1 or preclinical, from China biotech to in-license. I often hear people say, oh, China's just me too, me too, me. Me too is now moving to me best in class, and then potential, the future of true innovation. The basis of all of this is probably now the China education system, which with incredible support for universities, both from private in China as well as from the government. I mentioned to you that Nature publishes every year the top universities in the world for the previous year based on citations. And just published 2 weeks ago in Nature, look it up, 6 of the top 10 universities are from China. It used to be 1 10 years ago, now it's 6 of the top 10. So the investment in basic research, in basic sciences, that investment is tremendous, and we'll have to up our game, because that will translate into true innovation, as we now already see outside of biomedicine from China, in space industry, in astrophysics and mathematics, true innovation.
Yeah. Well, I think everything you've said makes people very much aware of the speed of change, and that, as Darwin said, success goes to the adaptable.
Yes.
And that's what we have to do. I'm struck by the rankings of the universities, because it's not only that China might be running faster, investing more, but of course this is a moment when, at least in the US, we're considering decreasing funding of medical research by 40%. And I'm wondering how, that's seriously being entertained at the NIH, so that doesn't sound to me like maybe the right move at this particular time, and obviously a reason for concern. Let me, this gets the education part, not only points to maybe issues we have here in the US with our educational system, which for now a couple of decades we've been worried is not competitive, but in a way we've countered that by, until recently, having a great flow of well-trained immigrants to the US. We're both immigrants, and immigrants to the US have kind of filled this. You look at the leadership ranks, not only in tech, but in life sciences. Many of the people are immigrants. So at Pfizer, you obviously recognize that the future success of the company is based on the talent. It's one of the reasons you're in China now. So do you have any ideas about how to ensure a pipeline of talent for your company?
I'll have to be careful, because Dr. Macquarie will be joining soon, so I don't want to make political statements. That's inappropriate.
It's okay. I will if you don't.
I think, I'll start with the investment in basic science. I think an interesting number is which I recently read, was for every 100, or estimated number, for every 100 million invested in the NIH, leads to approximately 76 new patents. It's for every 100 million. So it's kind of a basic fact that, yeah, you invest more in basic research, in translational research, that will translate into more products and eventually more cures and a change in human health.
And just to embellish what you said, I think that the tabulations are 3 to 1 in terms of returns.
Yes.
So that 100 million gets you back, not immediately, but it gets you
Correct.
back 300 million.
Now, many would still argue that right now there's few places to work in this industry or even in biomedical research than the US. China, maybe second. But for now, there's still few places in the academic freedom that's provided, the opportunities that's provided, and still also a very difference in compensation, both for academic researchers, postdoctoral fellows, in the US versus other parts of the world, and certainly versus Europe. So there's a lot of positive there still. But I think we all just need to advocate for investment, private investment, and government investment into research, including basic research.
Right, yeah.
Because that in the end will translate into.
Yeah, I think if you want to have, I'm sure we all agree, if you really want to change health, it's not just making a better health delivery system. You
Correct.
need these breakthroughs of new drugs, new vaccines, et cetera. That's what transforms.
And collaborate with the best. We've got 3, we just opened actually last week, another innovation center in Beijing. We've got an innovation center in Shanghai and a big R&D site in Wuhan. So continue to collaborate, global collaboration, global partnerships within academic, university, big pharma, biotech. Because in the end, the purpose is to improve human health globally. And to do that, that's what's going to be required.
Right. Well, it's clear to me that you're assuming the mantle of this position very well prepared, and I've really enjoyed your insights. We have a couple of minutes, and maybe we'll open for just a couple of questions. We don't have a lot of time, if there are any questions here. Good. It looks like you have covered the field. Oh, we are. Sorry. Yes.
Thank you so much. It was a fantastic talk through, and you talked about the breadth of AI and the ways that it's going to be integrated into the business and where it's going. Fully agree in that. What do you see about the evolution of your people and the way that they operate, the depth that they need to be able to go to versus the breadth? How do you see that changing over the course of the coming years?
So that is a critical question. The reason is with each technology, if we look back over decades now, every time a new technology is introduced, apart from iPhones, it usually takes 2 or 3 years for true adapting it. And even then, many people do not adapt it. So the biggest thing for us is a cultural shift. So you have the technology, now you need to implement and educate and train for the cultural shift that's coming. And that's why I think there's the macro thing. Yes, we need to do AI. It's very easy to say. But on the ground, what does it mean? So for me, it means taking, and remember, I'll use the example of medicinal chemists. They'll say AI because machine learning has been used for decades and pattern recognition by medicinal chemists. So now to bring in neural networks into the team of, and Pfizer is an incredible team of medicinal chemists, for instance. So the way I see it is bring in a number of AI engineers that can establish, if required, new foundational models that can apply to their craft. So embed it into each functional line. Medical affairs on the other end, what do they need it for? Maybe for automation of all documents, that all first drafts of documents, thousands of documents have been written. First draft is by AI. So have people embedded in that organization that can implement it. Cultural change is going to be massive. Good question.
Great. Question over here.
Gerald Commission with OS Therapies. You noted previously viruses could cause cancer, Kaposi sarcoma.
Of course.
Obviously, we've seen HPV and cervical cancer. and recently Epstein-Barr virus with multiple sclerosis now, not
Yes. Potential, yes.
right, neurodegeneration. So obviously there's been a new virus that's been out there. We've all heard about it, and this concept of viruses triggering other things. I spoke with Stan Prusiner and prions before. What's your
Yes.
view on how this, emerging class of viruses triggering cell cycle and, cancer and neurodegeneration, how's that going to impact things going forward for Pfizer?
That's a big question, but I'll answer a few quick. On a global scale, a reminder that nearly over 15% globally, 15% of cancers are caused by viruses. I need to bring up vaccines because vaccines is still the most effective way to prevent disease. And what's happened with the HPV virus is a miracle what's happened over these decades, from the discovery by Harold Zurhausen of human papillomavirus, then oncogenic type of HPVs, then E6, E7 discovery, E6, RB, E7, P53, fundamental discoveries with HPV, and then a vaccine. That clearly works. But where's it going to be important? Sub-Saharan Africa, in places in other developing world, in South America, in the developing world where HPV is still not. So how to get vaccines for us, important how to get vaccines access to the whole world. So that's vaccines. If you then go to new infectious diseases, again, I'll link your question to vaccines. Can we prevent it? Can we prevent infectious diseases? And the most effective way to do that is by way of vaccines. So I'm very positive about the future of vaccines because they've shown again and again and again that it's the most effective way to prevent disease globally. And your questions more on multiple sclerosis and others, that's still not completely worked out, but potentially, then hopefully there could be a vaccine. Good question.
Chris, you've given us a lot of insights and you've been very gracious, and you are officially designated a hero of the Galien Forum for pitching in last minute like this.
Literally an hour ago, so I was late, so thank you.
And giving us a wonderful interview, don't you think? So thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was great. Yeah, really appreciate it.